So, in my last video about Pro Cycling Manager 2025, I spoke about the graphics engine, because that is the flagship feature, but it's not the only one. In today's video, I'll walk you through every other announced feature, and I'll give you my opinion along the way. Anyway, let's begin! The first prominent new feature in Pro Cycling Manager 2025 is in career mode, but I gotta give you some context. You might remember last year's edition revamped the sponsor system, and I'll be honest, I was not too happy about it because we lost some features along the way. For example, in PCM 2023 or editions before that, the happiness of your sponsor was impacted by the build-up of your roster. So a Spanish sponsor like Movistar would want Spanish riders in your team roster, but if you didn't have that, they would be a little bit unhappy about that. And another example is that some sponsors wanted riders from a certain level of fame. And sadly, these features disappeared in Pro Cycling Manager 2024 and I made a whole video complaining about it. I'm happy to say that in Pro Cycling Manager 2025 the developers have listened because they have improved the sponsor system. Firstly, the process of finding a new sponsor has expanded, seemingly in a good way. The text I'm about to read is from the Steam page of Pro Cycling Manager 25. You're in constant contact with sponsors and you need to make the best choices for your team's future. In PCM 25, as your season progresses, your network of contacts expands and sponsors will come your way. If you're actively looking for sponsors, those discovered during the season will be able to contact you and express an interest in your team. Basically, that is how sponsors work at the moment in Pro Cycling Manager 2024. There's a prospecting page where throughout the season, more potential sponsors get added to the list along the way. Sometimes these potential sponsors set a deadline, so you have to answer before a certain date. And then it's on you to decide whether you want to sign with the sponsor now or wait for another sponsor, risk losing the first one. But in Pro Cycling Manager 2025, each sponsor that comes to you will have specific conditions, represented by these icons on this screenshot. According to the Steam description, there are now membership conditions depending on the sponsor's territory or nationality, a certain percentage of young people in the team, results requirements, or even an exclusivity condition if they want to be the sole title sponsor. For example, similar to PCM 2023, some sponsors will want you to sign riders from their important regions. Or a different sponsor might want an international team, so riders from many nationalities. It's also possible for a sponsor to request X amount of young riders in your team, or riders with a certain level of fame, like in PCM 2023. On paper, you can sign up to 3 title sponsors, but it is possible that a sponsor has an exclusivity clause, so they want to be sole title sponsor. And the cool thing is, it's all relative, so sponsor 1 might care a lot about your results, but the other one might literally not care about that, only care about the build-up of your team. And that basically brings a whole new dynamic to the sponsor system in the game. Lastly, there's a new projection screen, where you can change the order of your title sponsors at the end of the season. And of course, doing that impacts your team name and the jersey you wear the next season. Honestly, I gotta say, I am super happy that sponsors are now more impactful in the game because that's what it's like in real-life cycling. A pro cycling team is funded by a sponsor, so that sponsor obviously wants input on the cycling team. They want to be able to say, this is what the team should look like. It's nice to see this feature represent that in PCM. By the way, a good moment to mention, I have not played Pro Cycling Manager 2025 yet, so this video is basically just my opinion and reaction on the features that have been announced. I've always had the opinion that you should not be pre-ordering a game. You should wait until the game is out and watch a review video, for example. So yeah, make sure to subscribe because at the latest on release date, I'll be uploading my first impressions on the game so that you can make your decision if you want to play it or not. Anyway, let's continue with the next feature of PCM 2025. And it actually applies to both career mode and pro cyclist mode. In PCM 2024, teams would promote and relegate based on the team index ranking. Basically based on the strength of the teams after transfers. Obviously, that's not what happens in real life. In actual pro cycling, teams get promoted or relegated based on the UCI World Tour ranking across a 3-year cycle. And I bring great news, in Pro Cycling Manager 25, it's very similar to real life. Promotions and relegations are now based on the World Tour ranking as well, but on a 1-year cycle. And I'll be honest, I don't even want the developers to spend extra time on trying to make sure this is a 3-year cycle like in real life, because I'd rather have them spend time elsewhere. Like having to score UCI points is what it's like in real life cycling to try and avoid relegation. So it's good to see this feature represented in Pro Cycling Manager. But I do hope the developers add on to this a little bit. For example, I would like to see UCI points on the results page after a race. That way, like teams do in real life, I can also try and play the UCI point system in PCM. Anyway, our next feature spans across the entire game. And it might sound boring, but it's actually quite impactful. Basically, Pro Cycling Manager 25 is completely overhauling the game settings. In Pro Cycling Manager 2024, if you change your game settings, those changes apply to your entire game. For example, if you set your difficulty level to extreme, this applies to your whole game regardless of which save file you open. In PCM 25, the system is completely different. Game settings like difficulty level are now set per save file, rather than across your entire game. For example, when I start a career mode, I can select the difficulty level of that specific career mode. If I then start a pro cyclist, I can once again select the difficulty level of that pro cyclist. But there's more to it. In PCM 2024, you could choose a difficulty level from easy to extreme. In PCM 25, there's now an extra difficulty level called custom, allowing you to individually set a difficulty level for starting budget, sponsor objectives, in-race opponents, prize money coefficient, transfers, time trials, and sprints. For example, if you put the difficulty level of transfers on easy, you'll have more transfer points available. Now, I've always found that Pro Cycling Manager is too easy, even on extreme difficulty. So I'm hoping that playing around with these settings could give experienced players a bit more of a challenge. But I'm still not completely happy with how difficulty works in-game. It's basically as simple as if I change my difficulty from normal to hard, then my in-race opponents will have an increased rider attributes by 2.5%. So in 3D Race, the difficulty only really adapts the stats and not the actual AI. If I up my difficulty, I want my opponents to act more unpredictable and smarter. But realistically, Pro Cycling Manager has not figured out yet how to make opponents smarter and unpredictable. So until the developers figure that out, I don't think we'll see extreme difficulty become substantially more difficult. By the way, let's roll it back for a second. I spoke about certain game settings being set per save file. There are multiple settings available there, some of which are new. Firstly, you can adapt the frequency of falls and punctures. You can alter the growth rate of riders in your save file. So for example, youngsters, how fast they evolve. You can still limit the race day condition in the game. So for example, I don't like when riders show up in the race with a +5 or a -5. I don't see that as realistic. So I usually set the limit to 3. Which basically means -3 to +3. That being said, I would like to see this expand. I want to be able to put my race day condition settings on -3 to +1. Because in my opinion, looking at real-life pro cycling, it's much more likely that a rider has a significantly worse day than a significantly better day. Next to that, lastly in the settings, you will also have sliders allowing you to control how much certain attributes affect your gameplay. For example, if you feel like the endurance and resistance stat are a bit overpowered, you can reduce the slider a little bit to make them less effective. Anyway, those are all the changes in relation to the game settings. As the last part of this video, I would like to discuss AI. To be clear, if you don't know, AI is basically how your opponents react in the 3D race, so how they act and react to what you do. Just like every single year, the Steam description of PCM mentions an improvement in AI, specifically in 4 areas. Firstly, improved skimming. Basically, trying to make mountain stages more selective is how I understand it. Next to that, AI has apparently been improved in hill stages, versatile sprints, and sprints. But I have not seen this in action, so I don't know exactly what changed. I do hope we hear more about this soon, because I know that most of you have improved AI pretty high on your priority lists. Because let's be honest, the way your opponents react in a race is pretty damn important to a cycling game. Anyway, that's it. What do you think about Pro Cycling Manager 2025's new features? I'd like to hear your opinion in the comment section below. Quick reminder, our Discord is the go-to place to discuss the Pro Cycling Manager games. We've just hit a massive 2,000 members, and you're welcome to join too, through the link below. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye!